We are back. This is Origins of Our Faith. My name is Rick Richardson, and discussing really, I guess, the mystery, I guess you could call it, of the New Testament. Why did Jesus speak in parables? You know, it was because people were not supposed to get what he had to say. He said, it's not time. It's not for them to understand. There will come a time that they will get it, and they will perceive, and they will come to the understanding of what they're supposed to understand, but not now. In Isaiah, the quote that Yeshua or Jesus was talking about, it says, "And the Lord said, 'How long?' And he answered, 'Until the cities are laid waste without an habitation, and the houses without a man, and the land is utterly desolate.'" So this was a time in the future when everything would be desolate, when things would be, there wouldn't be anything there, and then from that point, God would begin to bring his people back to the land. Now, if you know anything about the land of Israel, you know that there was a time, in fact, Mark Twain went to visit Israel in some of his travels around the world, and he went to the Holy Land and came back and said, "What a desolate, awful place. Who would ever want to go there? There's nothing there. It's void and empty of anything worth anything." And that was his report back from what the land of Israel was like. Well, and in fact, in 1948, when the Jewish people began to return back to the place that their forefathers had as a nation, one of the main problems was all the swamps and all the malaria and all the things that they had to overcome. The hardship of there just being nothing there. The land was really a wasteland. If you go to Israel now, it's quite a different story. Lots of vegetation, lots of things happening. It's a completely different place than it was back in the time of Mark Twain. But so we see, over the period of now about 60 years, the land of Israel has transformed into something very different. And it's beginning to bloom and become something that was not before. So, again, we see this prophecy happening. But the problem is that we still have the prophecy not fulfilled because only the southern kingdom has returned. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, first of all, let's make sure we understand what we're talking about. When the kingdom of Israel had a rulership, a monarchy, it started with King Saul and then King David and then King Solomon, and everybody knows those three kings. But after King Solomon died, the kingdom split in two, and it became two separate kingdoms. The nation of Israel, the house of Israel in the north, or the nation or the house of Judah in the south. Two separate kingdoms with two separate kings, and they have, you can read this either in the book of Chronicles or in the book of Kings, about the different histories that go through as we read about the kings of Israel and the kings of Judah. Well, these two kingdoms existed side by side for about 230 years, which is a long time. That's as long as the United States has been in existence. But at the end of that 230 years, the nation of Assyria came and captured the northern kingdom, which were about 10 tribes there in the north. They dispersed them throughout their empire, and they became no more of a people. They lost their identity. They were assimilated into the Assyrian Empire and lost all identity. And that's what they were supposed to do. The southern kingdom, the nation of Judah, retained their identity, went into captivity later in Babylon, and then about 50 years after that returned to the land of Israel and set up once again the temple and worship in Jerusalem. And this was a time where they came back to the land, but only the southern kingdom. The northern kingdom, the lost tribes, have never returned. Again, that's what is expected. That's what has been foretold. And that's what Jesus or Yeshua was believing that his mission was. Now, how do we know that? Well, again, the whole idea of a Messiah is that Messiah is supposed to rule over both houses of Israel, both the southern kingdom, Judah, and the northern kingdom, Israel. And both houses come together via a Messiah that dies. This Messiah is known in tradition as Messiah ben Joseph. This Messiah dies, and through his death, the northern kingdom returns, and both houses of Israel are united. And then Messiah ben David, or the conquering king, rules over both kingdoms. Now, who did Jesus believe that he was? He believed he was Messiah ben Joseph. He believed he was the suffering servant, the Messiah that dies. We know that because he said so a couple of times. He talked about his death. And also because of what he said his mission was. Now, this is important. If we go to Matthew, and we look in Matthew 15, in verse 24, he says specifically, I am not sent, but to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Now, again, he's specific here. If he was going to say, I've only come for the lost sheep, well, people at the time probably would have understood what he meant. Or, if he would have said, I've only come for the house of Israel, well, people would have understood what he meant. Because the lost tribes are also known as the house of Israel. Sometimes they're called Ephraim, sometimes they're called Joseph, sometimes they're called just Israel. But many times you'll read about the house of Judah and the house of Israel. In fact, when it talks about a new covenant being made, it says, I'll make a new covenant with the house of Judah and the house of Israel. So both houses being together. Okay, so if he says, I've only come but for the lost sheep of the house of Israel, again, he's being specific. He's saying, listen, I've only come for the lost 10 tribes. That's what my mission is. That's why I came. And in fact, when he sent his 12 out, he said, don't go to the Samaritans. And we read this in Matthew 10 and verse 5. It says, he instructed the 12 and he sent them out, saying, do not go into the territory of the Gentiles, and do not go into the area of the Samaritans. Go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Again, sometimes we just kind of gloss over these things. I mean, it says something specific. And he's saying, this is all I've come for. This is all I want you to concentrate on. Here's the mission. This is what our job is, to go to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Now, if that was the mission, why didn't it happen? We'll take this short break and come right back.